Hey Donnie, do you hear that? What I can't hear like this is what you call a big sound, and sound is like it's coming from the west of town. I mean, oh wait, I know what it is. It's the mighty Giants, Donnie. Woo! I've been waiting to say that for a number of days now, and I'm glad I was able to finally get through with that. But I talk smack now. We talk smack throughout the week, but a fantastic game in the Sydney Derby over this last round. And I know you and I, maybe more I, are excited to talk about that game. But round five was filled with tons of stuff, whether it be upsets, whether it be some fantastic speckies. Looking at you, Taylor Walker, or if we're looking at games that are expected or games that are absolute blowouts. But of course, I'm your host, Ross Allen, joined alongside by AFL correspondent Coach Donnie Hess. And Donnie, how are we feeling after round five of the AFL season?
Oh, it depends really what team you are supporting. On one side of this particular podcast, as you can tell, elation is maybe an understatement. On the other side, cautious optimism on how the Swannies will approach now that they've lost a couple more key superstars to this game. But let's wait on the Sydney Derby or the Battle of the Bridge until a little bit later. Let's get into another very intriguing, mind-bogglingly weird, interesting, funky, crazy, so many different adjectives for this particular round of footy. Let's dive into this. I cannot wait to talk about some of these games.
5 rounds in, and we still have not gone anything close to what we were expecting out of any of the rounds of footy. Before we get into things proper, just want to shout out, of course, we had the AFLW Grand Final over the weekend with Donnie. You and along with a couple of very special guests were able to break this game down and break down the AFLW season. Of course, that's now out now everywhere on YouTube, on anywhere you get your podcast. And Donnie, great game that was. I was able to catch it. Luckily, of course, not live because I still like sleep. But I was able to catch out, like you said, and your preview was pretty good with that one too.
Oh, it was absolutely awesome game. Chelsea Hodder decides to go absolutely bat crazy with a couple of absolutely insane goals. I felt so bad for her because she had a goal of the year potential in that final, but unfortunately it's only for the regular season. And the
Mm-hmm.
Brisbane Lions, in their third time making it to the grand final, get off the schneid. They get the win at the Adelaide Crows, knocking off the Crows in Adelaide. I got to give it to it. Coach Starcevich and the Brisbane Lions were just such a great team this year. So many congratulations. And our episode was with a couple of ladies from the Coat Hanger footy show out of Sydney. They actually gave us a nice little shout out on their latest episode, which I think those ladies, Miss Fee, and then coaching legend in Melbourne, Miss Coach Kiwi. I'm hoping to meet with her sometime to chat a little bit of footy myself. But
Mm-hmm.
let's stay in this realm. Let's get back to the
Yeah.
AFL. I
Woo!
cannot wait to talk about this.
First game of the round out of Marvel Stadium. We had the weird feeling Richmond team against the weird feeling St. Kilda team. And that resulted in an absolute dredging by your Richmond Tigers. Tigers by 86 in this one, 2014, 134 for them. And then for the Saints, a measly 7-6-48. And this game was really just over before it started. We got Richmond. They get off this 2-game losing streak that they were on, albeit they're 2 runs ago they lost by only a couple behinds to Port Adelaide, but loss is loss. St. Kilda, they had a fantastic large win over West Coast last year, or last week, and they followed that up with an absolutely abysmal performance for the Tigers. You got Jack Rywell leading the way in scoring with his 5 goals. He is now second in the league in scoring with 17, trailing only Adelaide's Taylor Walker's 22. We also had Dusty Martin doing everything in the midfield, a goal and 34 disposals, leading the way in disposals for your Tigers. And what I really saw from this one is that time and time again, why you should never count this Tigers team is that They're all veterans. They've all been here before. They've all been in every situation before, from the players to the coaches to the organization. Any situation you want to throw at them, chances are that they've done it multiple times. And so they don't panic after a couple losses. They put on a huge performance, and this may very well get them back on track.
Oh man, this is a game that if you just see the final score, you're just like, what seriously? Because if you look back at last week, St. Kilda has the great comeback late in the game, beats a West Coast Eagles team that a lot of people still has a final possibility,
Mm-hmm.
and Richmond lost last week in a tough physical game against Port Adelaide. So you're going in thinking, okay, St. Kilda's got the positive momentum after a great second half. St. Kilda's probably Richmond potentially could come out flat because of a tough loss. And the first half was actually competitive, which was kind of surprising when you look at the final score. It was probably midway through the second quarter to late in the second quarter and on. St. Kilda just, I mean, it's like they flipped the lights off and went, "Yep, we're done." I mean, I don't know what it was. It was atrociously bad. Richmond just ran all over. Their pressure was absolutely insane. It was off the charts. This is a Richmond team that St. Kilda just really helped Richmond maybe put a lot of fear into the competition, because this Tigers team may have gotten their mojo back in this game, which is only going to serve them well going into the massive game that they have coming up this week. But I just, the questions now was that West Coast loss an anomaly after the atrocious loss to Essendon, and now this atrocious loss with only this enigma win, shall we say, against West Coast last week. So I'm really, the Saints are just such a team. It's like, I don't trust them right now. I don't trust them to be consistent. I don't know what to say about this team. Yes, they have injuries in their ruck stocks. Marshall still is having issues with his plantar fasciitis. Ryder has just come back. Hopefully he should be back here in the next week or so. But it's guys like Brad Hill, it's Butler, it's Higgins are just not playing up to what they should, and it's showing, and a lot of Saints supporters are not happy about it.
And I really can't believe it right now. Just not a good look for the St. Kilda Saints at this point. Moving on to the next matchup, though, we take a trip to Optus Stadium, where the almost always unbeatable West Coast stays pretty much unbeatable over there at that stadium, because we had the West Coast Eagles knocking off the whole spiraling out of control Collingwood Magpies by a final tally of 16-7-1-3 to 11-10-76. West Coast are able to take advantage of Collingwood's injuries. They beat up on a battered Collingwood team, and they rebound from the aforementioned last week's loss to the Saints. And Collingwood is now on a 3-game losing streak, and it seems like anything that's can go wrong for them is going wrong for them right now. But for the Eagles, it was a close game in the beginning, but it's really starting the second quarter. And from that point on, you just had West Coast running away with this, especially with led by Oscar Allen and Jack Darling. Both those guys combined for 6 goals in the second, both finishing with 5 on the game. And it's the Eagles proving that they may very well, Donnie, have the depth required for a really to be able to really contend for a premiership this year. Like you're saying, a lot of people still have them in the finals, and I still do as well. But we have some bad news for Collingwood, because not only does defender Mark Keane get suspended for 1 game for tripping, but also Jordan DeGoey and Jeremy Howe fined $20,000 each for breaking phone policy or game policy rules regarding cell phones and them not being locked up. It did come out. I mean, I appreciate Diane for explaining this to me. They did this all for betting, which I thought was crazy or a weird situation, because they had the same rule for like American football and American sports, but it's mostly so you're not watching film on the other team or looking like into their sideline, like some of the game day shots may show, like on TV broadcasts. But it was proven that both these guys used those phones to inform their families about match-ending injuries that they sustained, but rules are rules. They're in place for a reason. So you have to be able to follow them in any scenario. So I still understand the punishment, but the club is expected to cover the fines on this one.
Okay, so the fines are actually to the team. We'll cover that, and then I'll go back to the game really quick.
Yeah.
The reason that has happened, and I kind of explained it to you prior to recording, is Jaden Stevenson, former Collingwood Magpie, who's now with the North Melbourne Roos.
Poor
was
guy. Well, and I don't know what situation's worse being right now.
he was basically caught, as they say, punting or betting on one of the games that he actually played in. So one of the rules that they do is there's this lockbox where you can stick your cell phone in, and it's supposed to be shut and locked the entire time that the game is on. Once, I think it's like 40 minutes before the game is supposed to start, and then another 15 to 20 minutes after the game is over. Those boxes must be locked with the player's cell phone, so then they cannot access them. Coaches, assistant coaches, physios, players, all of them, okay, have to be in this lockbox. It was because of Jordan DeGoey with a nose fracture and a concussion, and Jeremy Howe hurting his hamstring, that they were in the locker room. Well, as the cameras for the feed for Friday Night Footy were on them, they were then caught as Jordan DeGoey, the guy with the concussion and the broken nose, grabs both of their phones, clearly showing that the boxes were not locked, and handing and taking their phones into the change rooms, which were behind where the camera was. So you couldn't, no privacy issues. But the problem is, because that was caught, well, everybody saw it. So there was the AFL sent to please explain, why did this happen? This is supposed to be locked. There's no way they should be able to get a hold of it. Yes, we understand that they have injuries, but the rules are rules. Everybody knew about them. So yeah, so it was just kind of a what storm all over, along with the fact that DeGoey's hurt, Howe's hurt. Both are going to be out at least a couple weeks, at least. DeGoey, it'll just kind of depend on how quickly they can set his nose again. And then the concussion 12-day protocol, so he'll miss at least this week as well. Going to the game, this game was more kind of, it was kind of funky because West Coast comes in, they lose Liam Ryan to another injury before the game started, and then Darcy Moore for Collingwood, their All-Australian halfback, gets pushed forward. I think Bucks kind of reacted to a lot of people saying, well, if you don't have any scoring, why don't you move Moore forward? Because Moore played forward as a junior. Well, that makes tons of sense until you go up against the team with three of the best talls in the competition in Kennedy, Darling, and Oscar Allen. So it's kind of pick your poison. Do you put Darcy Moore back to defend one of those guys, but then you don't have a lot of scoring going forward, considering Cox was out. They brought in Darcy in for him. Imagine, and it's all supply on that, but it was more kicks 2 goals, but in the long run, as you said, Darling and Oscar Allen kicked 10 combined. So I'm very interested to see with how getting hurt. Sounds like it's a hamstring. I think Moore goes back in the game this week against Essendon, but I'm not sure because Essendon doesn't have the targets the West Coast did. So we will have to see how that goes. But this was just a game where, it was ugly both on and off the field. And Collingwood kind of, once DeGoey went down, once Howe went down, Collingwood kind of lost all kind of cohesion, and West Coast just kind of rolled right over them. So unfortunately, the Collingwood's ugly continued about 8 months is not getting any easier.
Yeah, you could say that again, Donnie. The next game will take us over to the Western Bulldogs against the Gold Coast Suns, with the Bulldogs getting a dominant game in this one, winning by 62 points, led by Marcus Bontempelli, and a bunch of disposals by Josh Dunkley in this one. Yeah, 3 goals by Marcus, 38 disposals by Dunkley. And Marcus finished first with 2 goals and 11 disposals with this one. And let's talk about just the overall, this Western Bulldogs team. This midfield, at least, Donnie, they keep on putting up disposals in the 400s like it's nothing. Another tally of 415 this week. It's like, it's just second nature to them. I swear they dispose of the ball, the footy, as much as they take a step to run forward. It's absolutely insane. It's like drinking water to them. It's like taking oxygen. All these guys do is to get rid of the footy in clean fashion too. It's not like this haphazard, I'm kicking here, a handballing over here. No, everything's done with a purpose, and they're just a very well functioning machine at this point, just all the cogs just rolling right now at this point in the season. I want to give credit to Gold Coast, as I've done in previous rounds, where they did not quit in this one. They were down by 61.5, but they didn't come out flat. They came out fighting. But at the end of the day, you just can't stop this Doggies midfield. How do you do it? Is there an answer?
Oh, you just gotta hope that they don't show up or they don't have their best at this point.
No, that's not a very good answer. That doesn't make me feel good.
Unfortunately, you just gotta hope they're off. When it comes to the Doggies, I think one of the reasons why they have so many disposals is they are a high handball team. They are they are a running handball team through most of the field. They can kick. It's not like they're horrible kickers. It's just that they have so much speed and ability through the midfield with their running carry game that's really how they get a lot of teams is they get one handball out and then they flow and then they're like it's like a rugby team almost. They run in lines so where they've always got options in case a guy gets tackled. So there's constantly quick handballs and everything like that. And then just I saw that they ran through it. They said they could run 12 guys through the midfield of the 6 positions through there. I mean, they have 12 guys that can run through the midfield. So they never get tired because they can constantly just rotate. So I think that's what's really getting a lot of teams. Now, this is a Gold Coast team that has no major functioning ruck, so that probably didn't help. The Gold Coast did fight back in the third quarter after that huge margin and got it down to like 22 or something or other. And there were a few Doggy fans getting a little nervous when they had such a great comeback. But I think the Dogs kind of just let Gold Coast kind of use up a ton of energy to catch up, and then bang, 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 couple goals, and it was back to. And it got ugly again towards the end. So this is a Western Bulldogs team that honestly. They're absolutely flying right now. An upcoming game very soon with Richmond is going to be just the absolute marquee game coming up. I cannot wait for that game for sure. But this is one of those, the Dogs capitalized again on another week, another opponent that they were quite very easily better than.
Yeah, no, you're really putting it lightly when you say quite easily better than them. You can just say outright. You can just say that the Suns should even be in the same league as this team. No knock on the Suns, but this Doggies team is just that damn good. But that's gonna lead us to the SCG. That's gonna lead us to Sydney, and that's gonna lead us to the biggest win that I've witnessed as a Giants supporter, which isn't very long. It's only not even a full calendar year at this point because I really only started really getting to the AFL about summertime around here. So not crazy, but nonetheless, this was a crazy good game. Just an all-around great game. Doesn't matter what the final score was. This was highly entertaining as it was this really, really great hard-fought win where the Giants come back in this one in comeback fashion. As they come behind, trailing by a large margin, able to get a game-winning goal, 66 seconds to go in the game. First off, though, just want to say, those black Guernseys for GWS, it's just, I wish they would wear those every single week. They are undefeated in those as well, so maybe it's good luck.
Oh, those charcoal Guernseys looked absolutely amazing.
So good.
I can't argue with you. This was a great game of footy. It got ugly for a bit. I think both teams were not exactly elite with the football. I mean,
well, if you want to talk ugly, can we just talk about inaccuracy for a damn second? If GWS was able to kick straight and maybe not have 17 behinds, this game wouldn't even need to have been close. This very well could have been a blowout for the Giants if they were able to take better advantage and be able to kick a little straight. I know, look at me talking from my couch talking about kick straight, but that's ultimately what it is. It also did help when your captain Toby Green breakout game last round. He goes and he has the most inaccurate game of his 163 game career. He kicks a goal and he kicks a very important goal late in the game. But also, he could have made a little better if he didn't kick 7 behinds on this one. Mm-hmm. So,
A
We
couple,
can clean
of
that
them
up.
were rushed. So
Yeah,
it wasn't fully, but
it's not like he was just whiffing, but
no.
no,
It wasn't like he was wide open, no pressure, and it was just straight missing. And
yeah.
he had a couple of pressured games, but this was just one of those where GWS just stayed in the game. I mean, this could have been if they let off any pressure that they had, Sydney could have ran away with it.
Mhm.
Buddy kicks 5. That's great. But Sydney
It's
was just
fantastic, Donnie. Come on, don't sell him short, but he kicked another 5.
it's great. It's absolutely great for the game, and it really kept the fans into this. The fan support on both sides was absolutely amazing in this
So
game.
good.
This
I
was
couldn't
just
tell if it was a rivalry game or not.
this was just a game that was just both teams were really going after it. I think Sydney kind of had a few issues with GWS's pressure late in that game, and then they lose Hickey to a PCL injury off of basically a knee knock between
Mhm.
him and Mumford in a ruck competition, and that really did change the game. And again, this is not me disrespecting GWS, far from it. Okay, GWS capitalized on the fact that Sydney did not have a ruckman. That's just this. Let's be honest there. Okay, if Hickey doesn't get hurt in that situation, who knows how this game goes? It really does come down to that. But GWS capitalized. They got after Sydney's midfielders even more when Mumford did not have to face Hickey. Mumford was going up against Reed, and he was going up against Buddy Franklin a couple of times. That's not a matchup that Sydney's going to win very often. So Sydney then had to play defensive in the ball ups in the stoppages, which really changed the game because they couldn't get going like they normally do when they can kind of go on the offensive on the ruck taps when Hickey was there. So that really did change the game.
Mhm.
Again, all due respect, Tom Green, absolutely amazing play there at the end to kick the game-winning goal.
Yeah.
Sydney has too many guys too sucked up to the ball. Sam Reed also knocks the ball into the open space, which you cannot do.
That was a fantastic hit out, in my
He,
opinion.
it's a great hit out. The problem is he hits it out to advantage to GWS because he hits it
Exactly.
past 4 Swans players in the process.
He was trying to hit to a Sydney player, Donnie, just
in
not
that
the Greater
situation-
Western one.
Well, in that situation, what he could have done is a light tap down, and then Sydney could have swung out the back and went
Yeah.
down the opposite side, down the touch line, but they didn't. He taps it over 4 guys. Kelly gets it, an elite kick from the side, and
Yes.
not an easy kick at all.
Super sharp angle, close in. That was a finisher.
Yep. And then the
Yeah.
best part is Mumford evens up the next ruck tap. Sydney can't get going. They can't get it down the field. They do get a shot after the siren at about 80 meters. Tom McCartan goes for it, but doesn't even come close. And that's the game. Again, all due respect, this is a great win for GWS. This gets their season back on track because they lose this one. They're 1-4 going into round 5 and not easy continuing down the season, especially with a Bulldogs matchup coming up this week. And
Don't remind me.
already facing a tough Sydney team this week. Not exactly the gift of the lifetime facing Western, a team you've had a little bit of a bitter rivalry with over the last couple of weeks. So this was huge for GWS. This gets them another 4 points. It keeps them from being in the bottom part of the ladder. You get some more young kids having great performances. Toby Green, another good performance. Again, the 7 behinds, I understand, but he was impactful.
Yes.
You got to give him that.
That's
And
still
for
13 points on the board from him, too.
Exactly.
Least, yeah.
And for Sydney, this is put in, and I told Ross this before we went on camera. This is really spooked a lot of Sydney Swans fans. I've watched many boards go from 2 rounds ago, going from, oh, we got a chance to play in the finals, we got a chance, maybe we can be a premiership contender, to 2 weeks later, I'm seeing posts like, oh my God, our season is done. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, my head's spinning from the whiplash here.
Sometimes, man, you just back up, take a chill pill, realize that it's almost like these teams are always competitive with each other, no matter how good or how bad one is. And this is similar to a saying we have for American football. Our games are played on Sundays, and there's the saying, any given Sunday, which essentially means no matter how it could be the best team going against the worst team in the league, no matter what, you still have to come to play. And any team, we got to remember, like, these are all professional players. It doesn't matter how bad or good the team is. Any team has a chance to beat any team on any given Sunday, and guess that in this case, any given Saturday. But you understand my point here. So you can't put like all your eggs in one basket with this one.
And my thing is that they get Gold Coast. They get Gold Coast coming up this week. And honestly, Gold Coast or North Melbourne are probably two of the teams after what happened this week are the two teams you potentially want to play because they can get you back on form. They can get you some confidence. You don't have to worry about going up with Gold Coast. You don't have to worry about facing an elite ruck. Callum Sinclair will come in, take over the ruck. McLean will come in for Franklin, who's going to be out almost a month with bone bruising. Okay. That's fine. Rowbottom's probably going to come in. The question is who comes out. There's a lot of talk. Is it Blakey? Is it McInerney? Is it Wicks? Who knows? I'm not going to go too depthy on that because that's Swans radio here. That's not what we are. So I think this is, I think it's a little premature. And again, I said it after the fourth win. I said, I don't want to jump the shark on this one. Okay. It's a great fourth win, but it started to show the cracks a little bit against Essendon. And the proverbial boogie monster jumped through those cracks and showed that GWS really capitalized, and the corridor game that they were playing has been cut off. Teams have figured it out. The Swans have to find a way to get their ball movement back again. But we'll discuss a little bit more of that later. I think, again, all due respect to GWS, congratulations on your first Sydney Derby win that we've actually seen together. I know last year you joined in right about the time for Sydney to come and nip you there. So we're 1-1 when it comes to our Sydney Derby matchups, and that's perfectly fine. I think they will play one more time again this season. So the tiebreaker will be break later on this year. So I think we'll hop out of Sydney. I think let's move on. But again, all due respect, great win by GWS. Toby Green, the two Greens, even the Green in the midfield had incredible games. Finlayson's back, kicking goals. This GWS team, I wish them luck against Western Bulldogs. It's going to be tough.
It's definitely going to be tough, Donnie. I appreciate the good luck, though. I mean, if you guys follow us on Instagram or Twitter, which if you don't, you should. Twitter at Fourth Long Radio, Instagram at Fourth Long Radio. Links are in the bio, or just go to thefourthlong.com. You'll be able to find all of our links for everything there. You saw my post where I posted where if you needed me, I'll just be listening to this, and it was a 10-hour version of the GWS fight song, and I'm not joking. I probably listened to that song it's a 2-minute song. Probably got another good 8 hours of listening in this weekend. It was a very, very catching song.
You're not subtle in your gloating, are you, sir?
Nope. And Donnie, there's a reason I'm not subtle. It's because I don't get to gloat often. I'm a GWS fan. I'm gonna take advantage of it when I can. Let's go, Giants! And I can't wait for everything to come crashing back down again next round. I'm ready to be hurt again, Donnie. I'm ready to be hurt again. And speaking of hurt, let's talk about this Carlton team, because if they're anything, it is hurt, especially after this loss to Port Adelaide this last round, with Port Adelaide winning handily in the return to the MCG, the first game there in 637 days, if you would believe it. And they dominated this game basically from first siren to last. Just too many weapons for Carlton to stop in this one. I mean, Mitch, sorry, Donnie, excuse me for everyone at home, but Mitch Georgiades, thank you. Oh, damn, I knew I was going to butcher that one.
Darn Greeks.
Ruining the economy and ruining my pronunciation of this game. But here we go, Donnie. I think I got this one. And Robbie Gray, with 3 goals each. They had 5 players this game with 20-plus disposals. Ollie Winesley in the way with 32. And it's a trio of Charlie Dixon, Todd Marshall, and Mitch Georgiades. Damn it. I hate myself. But I'm Mitch. I apologize. And if you'd like me to apologize, come on the show, and I will apologize to you personally. But this trio is hardly matched by almost any team in the league, quite frankly, unless maybe you're like a Western Bulldogs type team right there. But man, I kind of felt bad for Carlton. There's just no way they were going to win this game with Port Adelaide rolling the way they were.
And the worst part about it is that Carlton kind of helped Port Adelaide look much, much better than Port Adelaide probably should. And
Mhm.
Carlton would, I mean, I can't tell you how many pundits on some of the shows that I've watched on some of the shows that I've watched this week that had just absolutely, I mean, they have torn Carlton
Oh, poor
a new
guys.
one. I mean, Carlton so
Poor
many
Blues,
times,
man.
just no pressure, no effort, no second efforts, very few one percenters. They let Port Adelaide absolutely come in and open up their fridge, drink their beer, sit on their couch, and
Now we
yeah.
talking some fantastic tasting Fosters is what I've heard. The beer of choice over there in Australia. Oh, I know
Oh
there's going
man.
to be some comments about that one.
Just Port just they played their game. They
Mhm.
Alir is looking like all Australian form. I mean,
Mhm.
Sydney Strait to get Hickey worked out, and Alir has absolutely fitted absolutely perfectly in the Port Adelaide backline. He's absolutely just excelled as a power player. And this power team capitalized on a woeful performance by this Blues team, and it's now got a lot of people going. I mean, this was a year everybody said the Blues should make the finals. The Blues should make the finals. The Blues should make the
Mm.
finals. And they are just absolutely not even coming close to the performance that they need to. And serious questions are being asked of the Blues going into this week. Where I mean, even Eddie Betts is trying to do damage control after going into training, saying that the fans need to just stay with us. We're going to get it right. And I love you, Eddie, but right now I'm not seeing too many things that's going to support you on that particular thought process.
No, and right now you gotta think that good old Davy boy over there. His the seat he's sitting on might be starting to really heat up at this point in time, but huge game for him and that Carlton Blues team next round. And Donnie, in this next game, I would you be able to do me a favor and try to explain these two teams? Because honestly, when I look at them on a round per round basis, I have no idea what to think of either of them. Because first off, we got the Brisbane Lions, who they're so wishy washy up and down. They should be good, but they're not. They started off 0-2, then they win, and then they're back to losing, then back to winning. So they got that going for them. Then you have Essendon, a team that's been in it against really good teams. You had that one blowout, but besides that, you almost beat the Sydney Swans. You're really close. You get a win, and now you get blown out by Brisbane, making me eat my words, saying that they're underrated. I guess not anymore, but maybe they still kind of are. I just don't know what to think of either two of these clubs at this point.
This is the game that was kind of interesting because I completely agree with you. Like you have two teams that their performance in this game was a switch of jumpers of what some people expected, and a lot of people expect Essendon to come out, a ton of young talent, get
That's
after
why I
it, play
expected.
with it. And then Brisbane kind of came out, and I don't know if it was the home cooking, plus the fact that it was an absolute downpour for the entire first quarter and at least half of the second quarter, to the point where, I mean, you could kick a ball and it would either skip and slide another 10 to 15 meters, or it hit just right, splash half the water up from the grass, and stop on a dime.
Well, if going from last year, that was the environment that Brisbane thrived in, was that all around chaos around the footy. I
Mhm.
guess that helped. It kind of carried over to this round.
Well, and the other thing you got to look at too is I think Brisbane kind of changed their game plan going inside 50 a little bit too. In the
Mm.
first 5 weeks of the game, they were bombing it into Danaher and Hipwood on their heads. Cameron wasn't anywhere need to be seen, and they weren't taking a ton of marks. In this game, they were lowering their eyes. They were hitting it up to 45. They were hitting a little bit shorter. Cameron was getting open. Hipwood was getting open. Danaher was getting open. That three-headed monster for Brisbane is, I think they're starting to kind of see how they're going to be able to work. And when the midfields lowered their eyes, hit leading marks of Danaher, hit leading marks of Hipwood, and then had Cameron coming off for the crumbs, Brisbane really got going, and Essendon might have been the proverbial jumping step for Brisbane to get their season going. And now the questions are: was Essendon's game against Sydney more an indictment on Sydney now that you have the questions after their loss? So again, these are two Jekyll and Hyde teams a little bit this week. Again, I go into some of these tips going, well, do we get the Essendon team that played really, really well against St. Kilda and Sydney, or do we get the one that got blown out by Port and Brisbane? Same thing with Brisbane. Do we get the team that played kind of absolute dog crud against Sydney, had an okay game against Geelong, got kind of the bad rub of the green?
Mhm.
You edge a win over Collingwood in a game that right now is looking like a couple of teams that have not played excellent footy, and then this performance where they looked absolutely elite even in the wet. So I don't know. I go into this week again still not really knowing what I've got in Brisbane, and is Essendon worse than I thought, or was it just a situation they just had a bad night? I don't know.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I still just baffled by these two teams. I guess one bright spot, at least for Eston, you got Cale Hooker at this point, who's now moved up to fifth place in the league in scoring. He has four. He led the game with 4 goals in this one, brings his season tally up to 16. So, hey, Essen, you got a goal scorer in you guys. So good job. Hold your head on that. And we'll see what the Brisbane Lions are able to do next round. Maybe if they could actually capitalize this off of this, or if they're just going to be like the usual Brisbane this year and lose. Hell, maybe even have fun with it. Don't need to get blown out. I guess only time will tell with that one. Our next game is going to be Adelaide and Freo, and a little bit of a preview into our power rankings a little later. Donnie, a little bit hot on this Freo team right now. Fremantle, they win a very close game on the back of an absolutely dominant fourth quarter, a quarter that was all Freo, 4 goals in the last half of that quarter. They're now 3-1 in their last 4 games, and they hand Adelaide their first home loss of the season. For Adelaide, though, yeah, Taylor Walker, another solid showing of footy. 2-goal game, a few behinds. And let's talk about 2 minutes of the game. Screw the goal kicking. Let's talk about the specky he had. Oh my gosh, just getting up on the shoulders, making that home crowd, just giving them something to cheer for off the bat. That was absolutely fantastic seeing Big Tex get that high up in there. That is a large human being to be able to get a specky like that. He now leads the league with 22 goals on the year, still on pace to break 100. I think he's averaging like 101 point something right now. And he's way ahead of pace to smash his career best of 63. The only problem now, Freo, you get a win. You've had injury problems all year. You're kind of getting healthier. Yeah, Nat 5 come back a couple rounds ago at this point. But now you suffer another possible injury with young star Adam Sarah is subbing out during quarter with an ankle injury, a guy that's been averaging 23 disposals a game. Hopefully this isn't too bad for them, but it doesn't hamper them too much. But Donnie, your thoughts on this one and your Red Hot Frio team, kind of.
oh man, this was a game that was really, really scrappy, but I kind of say this game changed when Taylor Walker went off a little bit with a little bit of a
As a calf injury.
a
Yeah.
calfish injury. He got it wrapped up and he continued in the
Slowed him
game.
down though, man.
But Adelaide was just not the same. Once he came off and got that strapped, he wasn't jumping at the footy. He wasn't leading as well. And you could tell it really kind of affected their forward line. I think their forward line was really good at crumbing off of mark attempts and different stuff like that. And he's such a good leader towards the footy. And when he couldn't explode into his leads, you could tell it really messed with the flow of the footy. And then David Mundy, the ageless wonder that is for Freo, and then Nat Fife is Nat Fife. I mean, the guy doesn't win Brownlows for nothing. The most interesting thing is his new haircut now, which is a combination of a mohawk and a ponytail, which is quite interesting.
It's unique. Yeah, I'll give him that.
I mean, if he wants to rock it, he wants to rock it. It takes a special human being to be able to do that. But
If that helps Nat catch a teammate and then go after a footy right after, so be it.
That was pretty impressive to see him catch Fast Freddy and still beat everybody to the footy.
That's a team captain right there, Donnie. That's a captain.
But this is just a Freo team that I think they're getting healthy. Yes, the Sarah injury does bother them, but they're starting to get healthy now. That's the scary part about this Freo team is They've won a couple of games without being at top notch. Some of their best defenders are coming back in the next couple of weeks. Fife looks like he may be back to his Brownlow type of abilities. I said the ageless wonder Dave Mundy is absolutely looking spectacular for being 34 or 35 years old, and he's still so effective and one of the best kicks in the game. And this was a game where Frio gets a win on the road, which doesn't happen very often. So, I mean, normally they win the games in the West and then they don't play so well on the road. To be able to go to the
Especially
Adelaide
in Adelaide.
yeah, and to go to the Adelaide Oval, to beat an Adelaide team that I've been high on. I've liked Adelaide at the start of the year, but maybe some Swiss cheese holes in this team if Taylor Walker isn't going, that maybe this team gets exposed a little bit. We'll have to see. But a big win by the Dockers this week. So I really good, and you've kind of teased a little bit that my Power Five's got a little bit of a surprise in it.
Yeah, you could say that one for sure. All right, and then going to the last couple of games of the round, I actually haven't said my trademark saying so far, Donnie. With the whole but with Hawthorn Melbourne, we get it. Hey, Donnie, here we go. Fantastic analysis, of course. Good team, bad team, good team wins, and good team wins by a 50-point margin. The Melbourne Demons are just, let's say, on fire at this point. Woo! I am sorry.
Right.
But they beat up on the maybe not beat up, but they definitely get the advantage of on a lower end of the ladder Hawthorn team.
Okay, well, I don't mean to contradict my host too much. I really
no,
don't.
Please do. Please do.
This game. The final score is not really indicative of how this game played out. I watched this game. It was actually a very, very good footy game
Which was surprising.
Until about the 16-minute mark of the fourth quarter. At the time, Hawthorn was only down 4. Okay. And we've seen the final score. It's a 50-point margin at the end. Melbourne finally goes, you know what? We're sick and tired of you, Hawthorn, and they just went on a roll.
Was this a Melbourne team that just plays with the food for about 3/4 of a game?
Again, Hawthorn is a weird team because they did this to Richmond a little bit too. The only difference is Richmond didn't blow up the score late in the game. Hawthorn stays in it. They're just annoying. It's the easiest way to say it. They're just there. They never go away. They're a combination of a few youngsters with some talent and some old heads that know what they're doing. And like I said, I've said it numerous times. Alistair Clarkson's one of the best coaches in the league. He always has a plan for everything. He figures things out. He makes it simpler. He does things that are going to really, really irritate teams. And that's what he did with Melbourne most of the game. He kept them from getting their game going. And I think they used so much energy in the first 3 quarters to keep this game close that they ran out of steam. Melbourne hit the front with a couple of goals, and Hawthorn just literally collapsed. And that's why the score was the way it is. This was really a tough, hard-nosed, physical footy game, and it opened up at the worst possible time for a Hawthorn team that doesn't have a ton of elite speed on the outside. They don't have a ton of game breakers on both sides of the footy, where Melbourne's got Max Gawn and the Rock, who went forward, kicked a couple of goals. Kazi Pickett is absolutely elite when it comes to the footy. Ed Langdon on the wing has just been one of the best bring-ins to this Melbourne team, giving them pace out on the wing to be able to get up and down the field. And Angus Brayshaw is another great one for them. So, I mean, just this Melbourne team, they are hitting their stride at the right time, and with some an absolutely hellaciously good couple of games coming up these next couple of weeks, this Melbourne team is going to go from maybe to in there if they get the right results over the next 2 weeks.
And now that's just a really scary idea that it doesn't matter what team you're going against. It could be North Melbourne. But if you're able to just say, hey, guys, you want to score some goals, man? Yeah. Let's score some goals. And they just go and do it. It's not a good sign for any one of their opponents.
And this is another one. Oh man, I watched this game and I'm just like, I mean, all due respect to Geelong, but they kept North Melbourne in this game far too long,
Well,
far too long.
far too long, especially even worse up until about halfway through the second, Donnie. Northern Melbourne was winning this game. They were beating the Cats for about 20, 30 minutes of this, which was
in Geelong too.
You can't do that. If you're trying to contend for a finals, which it doesn't, I don't think the Geelong Cats are anyway. But if you're trying to, Donnie, you want to know what you don't do? You don't trail to the worst team in football. I'll tell you that much, especially not for as long as they did. Luckily for you Cats fans, they got their act around about halfway through that second quarter, able to carry into the third, and then finish with a strong fourth. So, ended up being a 30-point margin. You were trailing after a 1.5, though, so that was not a good sign, especially not a good sign when it comes to the possible injury bug striking again on their stars.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Unfortunately, this was the good, the bad, and the ugly game. The good is they won the game. The bad is they probably have lost Dangerfield for at least a couple of rounds. The ugly is that they kept this North Melbourne. They kept this North Melbourne team, and this only adds to the speculation that Geelong may be one of those teams that this new rule change has really, really disadvantaged, because Geelong has not looked good with these new rule changes. They have not been good ball movement. Now, some good news. Yes, you lose Dangerfield. The good thing is you may have Jeremy Cameron coming in this week. So if you're a Cats fan, you lose a great midfielder, but you maybe pick up your secondary your secondary forward there to help Tommy Hawkins a little bit, which would be definitely interesting to see how they handle that, because Dangerfield sounds like a month, at least 3 weeks, which will hurt the midfield of the Cats. But having Jeremy Cameron back, having a two-headed monster up forward, I think they maybe be able to get by, but there's definitely going to be issues, maybe seeing if supply is going to be okay for these two big forwards.
But that is going to wrap it for our round 5 coverage. And like we said at the beginning of the year, Donnie said himself, after 5 rounds, he will come out with his first power rankings list of the top 5 teams. And oh boy, it finally came out. And he did not disappoint in this debut top 5 of the year. So, Donnie, let's go through things. We're going to go, both of us, and compare ourselves going from 5 to 1. Of course, if you follow us on our socials, like I mentioned earlier in the show, first off, thank you. I appreciate the follow. Second off, you're able to get these power rankings a day before the show comes out. We drop them on Tuesday. This weekly breakdown drops on Wednesdays. So you get that early, and then you get to see our list. You get to go tune into the show and get our reasonings behind the list, because sometimes it can be a little controversial. Sometimes might have a bit of a hot take in this one. But this hot take, let's maybe not as hot once you actually break it down, but just from face value. Number 5, Donnie, who you got?
I have the Fremantle Dockers. Okay.
And you're not just saying this to make Dockerman happy over on Twitter, are you?
I am not making. I honestly, Dockerman, you're great, and I almost tweeted him saying, "Hey, you're definitely gonna have to listen to this episode because you are going to love one of my power ranking teams." No, I picked the Fremantle Dockers, and everybody's like, "Coach, are you nuts? Seriously? You don't." Okay, let me explain this. Okay, I have said I go off form. That's why I said I wanted to get through 5 games. I looked through form. And if you really look at it right now, okay. So for those that don't know, there are 5 teams at 3 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
I will go through each one of them there. Richmond, West Coast, Adelaide, Geelong, and Fremantle. Okay. Fremantle by percentage is the lowest, but here's my explanation why. Richmond, yes, they're 3 and 2, but they've lost 2 of their last 3, including the games against Port and the game against Sydney. Okay. So that's going to take them down a little bit. Right. We go to West Coast. Well, West Coast is 2 and 1 in the last 3, but lost 2 games ago against a St. Kilda team that, again, we've really questioned their their abilities. So I kind of downgrades them a little bit.
Mhm.
Adelaide just lost to Freo. So they have also went 2-1 in this last one, but their loss was this last week. Usually in my power rankings and most power rankings, when you lose, you drop down. The
Makes
Geelong
sense.
Cats, I mean, they made North Melbourne look competitive for the first half. You don't do that. You still have injury bugs. Dangerfield's down. Cameron, we're not sure if he's going to be back. So by process of elimination, that eliminates the 4 teams ahead of us. Geelong has won their last 2 out of the last 3, including a tough win at Adelaide, also in that 5. So
Mhm.
Fremantle will get my 5th spot because they are playing better. Yes, they do have the Sarah injury. We'll see how that impacts them, but they're getting healthier now instead of getting more injuries, unlike some of the teams ahead of them. So that is why I have the Fremantle Dockers at 5.
Now, for me, unfortunately, Frio fans, they did not make my list. But hey, if you win next round, there's a good chance you can make your debut onto the spot for me. But for me, it's going to be the number 4 team on the ladder, and that's going to be Port Adelaide. They're coming off of back-to-back wins, one over Richmond and now one over Carlton. But like we talked about when we broke down the game, this was a good win against Carlton. But man, it was almost a gift in most of the game. This was I don't want to say easy because no game is really easy, but this was a cruise to the win column. So yeah, they get another 4 points, but it was a super easy pickup, and they only beat the Richmond team last week by a couple, and it looked like Richmond really should have won that game in parts of that when you win just because of a couple behinds. But Port Adelaide, still a fantastic team, still in the top 5 of the league, so they are going to be number 5 on my list. Moving to number 4, I actually went with, and I promise I didn't put Richmond here because I love their fans on Instagram. I promise you. Man, they went crazy with the Jack Rywell being number 2 in the league in scoring right now when I put out that post on Monday. Of course, thank you, Tiggy. Go Tigers, just for Instagram likes. I appreciate you guys. I'm not selling out, I promise. But Richmond, yeah, they're 1-2 in their last 3. They were on a 2-game losing streak, and then they get a blowout against a poor St. Kilda team. But if you look at the last losses for them, that kind of changes things a little bit because going back a couple rounds, they lost to Sydney, which is a very, very good team. Then they lost by 2 to the aforementioned Port Adelaide Power. And now they go and they blow out. And I don't really care who you play. If you blow out someone by 80 or plus, that is a great performance in my book. And that I don't know. I just have more faith in this Richmond team than I do in Port Adelaide and maybe the Freo Dockers. Some were lower on the list. I have more faith in them, so I'm comfortable with keeping them over here at the number 4 spot.
All right, number 4 on my power rankings, I have my beloved Sydney Swans. The reason that I do this is that by the ladder they are 3rd. The reason that I have them 4th is, again, this is a loss this week. I usually downgrade you when it comes to losses. You played a GWS team that you lose to. You probably should have won it. You didn't. Yes, you have your injury issues. You're going to get exposed. There's now questions a little bit on the youngsters. Are they getting tired? I think you've got a good matchup against Gold Coast this week, so I think there's a chance to get a win here. But when you have the injury issues that you're starting to have now, your form isn't playing as well, you're going to get downgraded a little bit. That's why I'm going to have the Sydney Swans here. I'm not ruining the season. I'm not like helter skelter, they're done. No, I just think this is going to be, this week could be a good little get yourself back on track type of game this week against Gold Coast. So I have the Sydney Swans at 4.
Speaking with Sydney, though, and also speaking with the rest of the ladder, at least for me, it might be a tad boring for you guys because 1, 2, 3 teams on the ladder are going to be your 1, 2, 3 teams in my power rankings. Just because Sydney, they lost to JWS, is a very close game, and I'm not putting a lot of weight into that loss, if I'm being honest. They're still a very, very talented team, and they're now just 1 game behind these top 2 teams in the Western Bulldogs in Melbourne. I still have a lot of confidence in this team, even with the injuries, even with what people call a poor game against GWS. I've been hot on them all year, and one loss is going to really deter me all that much. Now, if they go out and they lay an egg next round or the round after, then yeah, I'm going to have to take some steam off this team in my thoughts on them. But like you said, Donnie, one loss isn't really going to mean all too much to me. They're going to get knocked down from the 1 spot to the 3, sure, but they're still up there for me. But then just the last two, Western Bulldogs, all we talk about is because they are unstoppable. The only way you could hope to stop them is if they stop themselves. And the Demons could just kind of score at their own will. So that's a very scary thought, but that's going to round out my power rankings.
All right. For me, my flip here is I have Port Adelaide at 3, another big win over Carlton, the win over Richmond. I think they're just on a little bit better form than Sydney at this point. So that's why I have them at 3. Number 2, Melbourne Demons. They're still solid, but I think their opponents right now are the reason that they are number 2 and not number 1. And then number 1, the Western Bulldogs. You can't argue. They're absolutely flying right now. But their schedule gets tougher now. They're starting to get some of these more elite teams on. Both of these top 2 teams, both Melbourne and Western, have Richmond on their schedule. They have Sydney on their schedule still to come. They've still got Geelong on their schedule. So Port still got to play both these teams. So this is going to flip a little bit, a lot over the rest of the season. But again, just a very interesting first 5 weeks of the season. I mean, like I said, the 2 undefeated teams are 1 and 2. Really, the percentage is really the only thing that's separating them right now, if you really look at it, because they haven't had the huge tests yet. I mean, if you really look at it, go through the schedule. The toughest test for Melbourne right now was Geelong. Well, Geelong's not playing super, super great footy. And Western's toughest test has been Brisbane. So you're not.
Oh, watch out, Donnie. You said Western. They're going to get you in the comments for that one.
Okay. The Doggies. I know. I saw that. My deepest apologies.
It wasn't me this time.
The Western Bulldogs. The Western Bulldogs have Richmond coming up here really soon. So I really have to say that their toughest test has been Brisbane, and Brisbane has been, again, on and off. Their schedules will get tougher. I cannot wait to see this. These are gonna rotate a little bit with a few injuries.
You bet they are. You bet they are. But to sum it up, Donnie, from 5 to 1, Freo, Sydney, Port Adelaide, Melbourne, and the Western Bulldogs. And then for me, it's going to be Port Adelaide, Richmond, Sydney, Melbourne, and the Western Bulldogs at top. Now we're going to kind of round things out, going to our round 6 tips. And I just have to admit, I did not have a good week last week. So if you listen to me, I'm sorry. You should have known better. Shame on you, if anything, because come on, man. Why would you listen to that? I've been good all year. But Don, you said that the Bulldogs competition was getting a lot tougher, but that doesn't start in round 6 because they're taking on the GWS Giants. I mean, they're coming off hot off a huge win over Sydney. But even as a fan, no, like unless the Bulldogs completely just don't play their game at all, they got this one.
Well, and I think it's funny that you graze over the fact I went 7 for 9 last week in my tips. So
I grazed over that because I didn't want to be showing up that bad on my own show. Damn it! And that's why you're the AFL correspondent, Donnie, because you know what you're talking about.
I don't know. I've had some interesting weeks. These first few weeks have been kind of on and off. I've had a 1 6 and 3. This last week was 7 for 9. I think one week I was 4 for 5. I was 4 out of 4 and 5. So it kind of bounces back and forth. I love the GWS. They're gonna be tough. I think they're going to be a little more physical with Western than some of the teams that they have played. I just think Western just has a few too many weapons in a few places that GWS is not strong. I mean, if they had Matty DeBoer, if they had Phil Davis, if they had all of their superstars, I think this is a closer game. I think this could blow out to a 3 or 4 goal game if Western can get going. Can Toby Green be enough of a pain that he can kind of get Western off their game a little bit. I
Maybe.
have Western. I have the Bulldogs in this one. I do, but I
Hmm.
think I really want to see how GWS respond, because last week's game was very physical, and
Yeah.
now you're facing a finesse, speed. They're going to run and gun team, not the physical team a little bit that Sydney became in that game. So I'm going to go with the Western Bulldogs in this one, but I think it's a little bit closer than a lot of experts might think.
Hey, then if I'm pleasantly surprised, then you bet I'll be blasting that anthem a lot more this weekend. The next game is something we talked about earlier. It should be a good bounce back game for Sydney to be able to. It's a get things right game against Gold Coast, and that's why I'm going with Sydney in this one.
You're missing the game a little bit. Well,
Come on,
actually, they're
come
both at
on.
the same time, so I can't really complain too much.
Yeah,
No, Sydney
I'm
Gold
going with
Coast.
the order that the schedule gave me on my end.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I will go Sydney
don't
as
worry.
well. I think Sinclair comes in and at least makes the run contest on Sydney's side. I think Sydney gets a good fight back win here. Metricon Stadium. Get away from Sydney. Get your head straight. Put a few new kids and put a few newbies in. Get Rowbottom back in. I think Sydney wins this one. I don't think it's super impressive. I think this may come down to being a little bit gritty, but I think Sydney
Mhm.
does get the win here. They get themselves going back on before a couple of really tough games coming up.
Now it's just like over these next few stretch of rounds, you got the injury bug a little bit against GWS, especially. If you
Mhm.
can grit out these games and just kind of make your way through it, then the rest of your season is just going to be that much better for them. So good little game against Gold Coast here.
Just survive a couple of weeks till you can get Rampy and Heaney back, and as soon as you get
Exactly.
those two back, I think that'll kind of help you out a little bit. I think they're going to have to survive the ruck for most of the year. Naismith should be back, so we may have our original number one ruck maybe back in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I'm hoping, but we'll have to see.
And that would definitely be best. But the game that Donnie was kind of arguing with, a little disrespectful, but it's okay. I forgive you. I'm not just playing Donnie. Same time, same day. It's going to be Geelong and West Coast. And I just have zero. Okay, you said they might be getting Jeremy Cameron back. If they do, they have a better chance in this game. But without him, to me, it's almost a foregone conclusion that West Coast, although West Coast has been a little iffy in some of these rounds, this is a game they should win, and this is a game that they will win, but it will be a close game.
I'm with you on this one. I got West Coast only because the Dangerfield injury scares me when it comes to their midfield.
Yeah.
I know West Coast has been kind of surviving a little bit with all of their midfield injuries, but that three-headed monster up front. I mean, if Nick Naitanui can get some of the taps, and he's going to be a huge advantage for the Eagles in the midfield. If they can get it to Tim Kelly, if they can get it to some of their youngsters, yes, they're without Flying Ryan, but they've still got Allen, they've still got Darling, they've still got Kennedy, they've still got Barras and McGovern, who are going to be able to take away at least one, if not both, of the many of the options to get the ball to Cameron if he does play, or Hawkins, is going to cause a lot of issues going there. I think West Coast has got enough. I agree with you. I think this is close. I think this is under 3 goals, just because if Cameron's there, that gives a little bit more confidence to these Cats fans that maybe they can get going. Well, this is going to be a very interesting game. I hate that it's on at the same time, because this is a very intriguing matchup, because it's two teams that are ball control. They will want to keep the footy. So it could come down to goal accuracy and who's kicking goals, who's more accurate in front of goal.
100%. The next game we move on to is going to be Brisbane and Carlton. And I, I I want to pick the Lions. I really do, especially with what's going on in Carlton right now. But Brisbane, I just don't know about this team. I'm going to cautiously go with Brisbane on this one. But this is a game where I think this is just a coin flip, to be honest.
I completely agree with you. This was another game just like the West Coast Geelong game that I sat and I looked at it and I went, "Oh boy, this is an interesting one." If this was up at the GABA, it's Brisbane Lions all day, every day, all day, every day. Being down in Victoria, being at Marvel Stadium, it's gonna let Carlton be in this, but I'm gonna go Brisbane on this one. I think that game against Essendon in the wet, Lockie Neal trained really well, had another one of his normal, Brownlow style games. Okay. Zorko's playing well. Cameron, Hipwood, and oh my God, Danaher, are I think they figured it out. I think
Mm.
they figured out how to play with how they need to work with each other to get everybody open. And that's scary for the competition if they start getting going, because they've got Zorko. They've got a lot of great midfielders that can get them the ball. And Daniel Rich coming out of the back set a record for meters gained. He almost did a full kilometer of meters gained in one game. He had
Jeez.
948 meters gained. That's by kicks, balls, and running combined in one game in the wet. He is an absolute deadly gun in the back and is pinpoint with his passing. I think Brisbane wins this one, and I think this puts Carlton in the point where David Teague, I agree with you, his seat starts getting quite hot.
Yeah, David Boy is going to get a little bit uncomfortable on that chair that he's sitting on. This next game, though, it might be a basic pick for it, but this is going to be game of the round right here, because not only do we have one of the hottest teams, one of the last remaining undefeated teams in the league, we have the defending premierships and a team that has shown flashes that, yeah, they could be really, really damn good. But we get Melbourne, we get Richmond, and this is a tough one for me, Donnie, just because, like, when I was talking about the game breakdown, what I've been saying about Richmond, what we say about Richmond is that they're a veteran team. They've been here before. They know how to win these games. Melbourne, they haven't had the strongest schedule, but they can score seemingly at will. This is like one of those heart versus brain kind of decisions, right? Where my brain says the Demons, my heart says the Tigers. And it's in one of these, Donnie, where I just had to grit my teeth and say, team, I'm going with my heart on this one. I'm going with the Richmond Tigers.
All right. Okay. So I'm also going to go Richmond here as well.
I feel a little better.
No. Here's my thing.
Okay.
Melbourne, again, I've said this and I hate saying this because it's the schedule you're given. Okay.
Yeah.
Melbourne hasn't exactly had the toughest games in the world. Okay. Hawthorn really pushed them. Okay. If they thought Hawthorn was tough for the first three quarters, imagine that type of pressure dialed up by almost 7 or 8, which is Richmond, and that's going to come all 4 quarters. Melbourne was a little bit fumbly at times in those first 3 quarters. Hawthorn was able to kick goals. I think Richmond is much more deadly up front. Richmond has more threats up front than Hawthorn did. I think this is I think Richmond gets the chocolates on this one, but I think this is an absolute epic game. I think it comes down to the last couple of minutes of the game. Dusty Magic, he gets something off the back of the contest, kicks a goal, they win it by 4, something big. I think this is going to be an absolutely marquee matchup. This could be game of the year if it plays out the way I think it could.
If we're calling shots on this one, Donnie, I'm gonna call mine too. Jack Rydwald is going to kick a after the siren goal on this one from 50 to go up in with this game. I know, super specific, but if that happens, I guess I'm just a genius at this point. But now these next 3 out of the 4 games are
before we move on real quick.
Yes.
Another helper here. It's Rewalt.
Thank you, Rewalt.
Jack Rewalt.
Yep. Jack Rewalt. You could have, damn it, Donnie. You could have done this early in the show. Now we're going to get comments guaranteed. Guys, I swear I'm doing my best here. There's a lot of damn names to go through. There's 22. There's just like 44 guys on the field at one point in time. So
when you watch the games, listen to the commentary.
Well, I had to listen to the commentary because commentary is half the best part about the game. If I'm being honest, man,
but they're massive helpers when it comes to how to pronounce these names for sure.
You guys working on it.
Not working
on it. I know you're nice, Donnie. You're nice. You're forgiving. These guys in the comments are ruthless, but I tease. You guys tease. It's all a really good time here. If there's something that Aussie knows how to do,
I appreciate that they care so much. I'll say it that way.
Yeah, nice. You care enough to comment, and like I said, an Aussie, if they're good at one thing, it's banter. That's a fact with that one. Next
They
one.
love taking the Mickey out of you.
Oh, oh, it's great. We're going to go with Freo and North Melbourne. At least I can pronounce Melbourne the correct way. And we get the Freo Dockers. They're going to win this one because they're the fifth best team in the AFL at this point. And North Melbourne, they are not the fifth best team in the AFL at this point. They're quite a little farther down the list. It should be an easy one to call.
This one, Freo should win this one. I think this is a really good game. This is a really good setup game for the rest of their part of the year for Freo. I think this is a good win. I think you can maybe be able to absorb the Sarah injury a little bit because he gets a free week where they don't need him to win the game. So this is kind of perfectly timed for this Fremantle Dockers team to be able to put up a good percentage and kind of get them back in with that group of 5 that they're in now. Right now they're currently out of the 8, but this game should give them a nice little percentage boost, maybe 4 points, and get them into the 8 by the end of this round.
Now the next game should be another cut and dry one, seemingly, but based off their performances in round 5, that kind of gets the water a little murky when we're going into tips for this one. I will take Adelaide over Hawthorn, but I will not be surprised if it's not only a closer game than we expect, but maybe Hawthorn actually pulls the upset in this one.
See, I've got Hawthorn winning this one, and let me explain. I said last year that I called Adelaide beating Hawthorn because of the way Hawthorn was playing. Adelaide, I'm worried Tex Walker is going to come into this game with that little bit of a calf strain, a little bit. And if he plays like he did the second half of the game against Freo, Hawthorn has enough with their defensive ability, their ball control to be able to stay in this game. I think they can get it late. It is in Victoria. It is not in Adelaide. So that's also going to help the Hawks here too. I think the Hawks nip this one. I think this is an absolute barn burner. If Taylor Walker is fully healthy, this game could flip on its head. I'm going off of that Walker is still going to be fighting this calf injury. So I'll show my cards here. Okay. I'll proverbial put them on I'm going all in on this one. I'm guessing Walker still being bothered with it, maybe doesn't even play. So I'm going to go Hawthorn on this one. This is my kind of going out on a limb one on this one.
I love it though, Donnie. That's why I bring it on. Now the next one is a really close game for me to call. And I've been saying this team is underrated. They tried to prove me wrong last round, but I'm still going to ride with them, damn it, for better or for worse. I'm taking the Bombers over the Magpies in this week.
This is another one. It's a complete coin flip. I literally, you could flip a coin 10 times and you'd have just as good a chance to guess the winner of this one. I'm gonna go Collingwood. I know they're without Tagoe. I know they're without Howe, but they've still got some of the most experienced midfielders in Pendlebury and Sidebottom who can step up and really lead it. I think Darcy Moore goes back to stabilize that defense, and I think Mason Cox maybe comes back in for Tracy. I think he kicks
the greatest player in the AFL.
I know. Well, he sat out last week, unfortunately. So
that's why they look bad. It's because they didn't have Coxzilla. I'm telling you guys.
And the other thing I think is Grundy will have a massive impact because Essendon still doesn't have an elite ruckman. I think Grundy has a great game. I think Collingwood wins this again. I think this is a great Anzac Day game. This is one of those, if you get a chance to watch some of the pregame ceremonies with the Anzacs, please watch this. This is an incredible game. The Anzac Day game between Collingwood and Essendon. Hopefully the jumper clash isn't as bad as it looks like at the present point, but we don't know. But I'm going to tip the Pies, but I completely agree. There's a really good chance the Bombers win this one too. This was so hard for me. I think I picked each team for about 10 minutes at least because I was like, I think Essendon can win it this way, but it's so.
And you bet I'm looking forward to my first Anzac Day game. So that's going to be a lot of fun to look forward to. I'm extremely excited to see that. I'm extremely excited to not be able to know who the hell or what the hell is going on when I'm trying to watch the game on TV. Our last game of the round is going to be Port Adelaide and St. Kilda. And if these two teams play anywhere close to how they did last round, it's Port Adelaide, and it's going to be Port Adelaide by a country mile.
Well, as you've stated several times in your podcast, good team,
bad team.
I don't see a way for St. Kilda to win this one. This Port team is absolutely on fire. St. Kilda is a dumpster fire. They can't make up their minds whether they want to be good or bad. I'm hoping Paddy Ryder is back soon. I think he gets another week off this week. I think Port kind of runs this one up. I think this is 4 or 5, maybe even 6 goals. I think Port is just so good. I think Port is starting to kind of stamp themselves in that really good team that's going to be a finals contender, that's going to be a flag contender, and they're setting their mark right now.
Man, that's going to be another crazy round of footy to look forward to. Another round where I really don't know what the hell is going to happen. And another round where I'm going to be completely wrong. Donnie's going to be completely right, because that's just the way the world works. You got death, you got taxes, and you got Ross not knowing how the hell to tip a round of footy. But that's just how it is at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen. What you can do, at least, is just go with the opposite of my picks. Hey, there you go. You got to find one of these alternatives to this. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it for our round 5 breakdown. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Hopefully I was able to fix the audio a little bit. I will take full responsibility for last round. We had some audio issues just because, Donnie, you came up a little quiet on that. Not your fault. That was my fault on audio mixing. I appreciate you guys with the heads up, and I love all the support from the comments, no matter how nice or how mean they can be. It's all in good fun, and I love the hell out of every single one of you that watches our show. We've now gone over the 20% margin in audio streams for Australian viewership. So that is another really cool mark to hit. But ladies and gentlemen, you can check us out at thefourthandlong.com/AFL. You catch Johnny out on Twitter at Coach Has 40. And just go, I have a personal, I don't use it. Just follow at Fourth Long Radio and do yourself a favor. But Donnie, your feelings going into round 6, describe them in one word or phrase.
Oh man, this is a difficult week here. Is topsy-turvy.
Topsy-turvy. I love that one. Ladies and gentlemen, we will catch you after round 6 and after my very first, and I'm really looking forward to it, Anzac Day.